So Tori, look, we deal with all kinds of misconduct here at the law office of William Helixon, but I'll tell you, and I'm pulling this number, out of my fourth point of contact, about 75% of my cases involve alcohol, whether it's a DUI or whether somebody was drunk and got in an inappropriate relationship, or whether it was drunk on duty or disorderly conduct. Let's talk about some of those alcohol-related offenses, not the DUIs or the inappropriate relationship, but drunk and disorderly and being drunk on duty. I'll tell you, usually as an add-on, the trial counsel always like to throw on the drunk and disorderly on a court-martial or an Article 15 or even a GOMAR if alcohol was involved. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I'm used to seeing additional charges added on that they think will be easy to, if higher charges if they can't prove those higher charges, then yes, adding on an additional alcohol offense so that they could, at least kind of get the soldier for that offense.
Right. So drunk and disorderly has two main elements. You were either drunk or you were disorderly, or you were drunk and disorderly, and then that conduct has to be prejudicial to good order and discipline or service discrediting. What is prejudicial to good order and discipline?
So prejudicial to good order and discipline is a catch-all. So effect on the unit, whether it be the morale of the unit, the ability of the commander to do its job. So any articulated effect that a commander can make to articulate why that given incident was prejudicial to the unit.
Like a drunk soldier going out and screaming at some of other soldiers might have a negative effect on good order and discipline.
Yes, that's a great example.
Right. And so that being drunk and having this disorderly conduct, and the fact that, maybe the soldiers don't hold this leader or this, peer in the same light, could affect, the morale of that unit. And that's what makes it an offense under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. What about being drunk on duty, right? I've had a couple of cases where that was the only charge and they were separating an NCO and E7 for being drunk on duty. One of the key components of drunk on duty is actually being on duty, right? Not that you show up and you say, hey, I'm too drunk to work, and you leave, right? That's a different offense. That's not drunk on duty, but you actually have to be on duty. Have you seen the government try to charge drunk on duty when they actually had not assumed duties? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I see it often where the soldier or service member is just showing up, and at that point, they seem as if, there's something off. And so instantly, without any initial discussion or anything to see, or the service member even saying anything, then they're like, oh, you're drunk on duty. As opposed to giving the soldier an opportunity or service member an opportunity to, ask, be like, hey, I need to go home right now.
If you show up for duty and you don't assume your duties, that is you being incapacitated from prior intoxicating liquors, right? Whereas if you assumed your duties and you're drunk, then you're drunk on duty. Now, the difference between those two is important from a separation perspective, because what's considered a 1412 Charlie or serious misconduct generally requires the offense to be punishable by 1 year, right? Drunk on duty is. Being incapacitated from prior consumption of intoxicating liquors is not 1 year offense. So that wouldn't rise to the level of being a 1412 Charlie in the Army separation. So you've got a minor offense and a major offense. And the distinction is, have you assumed your duties? So it's real important if you're being charged with drunk on duty and you hadn't really shown up for duty, you just showed up and said, hey, I'm prepared to take duty, but I'm drunk, I need to get out of here. You need to talk to a lawyer about that. And, those are the distinctions that are important to make when determining whether or not you're going to face a separation at a later date. What are some of the justifications, if you can think of any, for being drunk on duty? Are there any?
So I would say that there's no justifications in and of themselves. If you feel that you're not at the capacity in order to do your duties, then yeah, it's articulating that, you can't do that, as opposed to just like starting your duties, realizing that you're not capable of doing them.
Right.
Or choosing to do your duties, knowing that you're not capable of doing them.
Well, there are two types of drunk on duties, in my opinion. There's the drunk on duty because you just had too much to drink the night before and you're still drunk when you come to work. And then there's the drunk on duty because you're an alcoholic and you drink and you're drunk all the time. So if it's the prior where, you tied one on and you're still drunk in the morning, that's a different approach legally than somebody who's an alcoholic. Because if you're an alcoholic, right, you're going to need to assess what your next steps are. How do you address the underlying problem of what they call alcohol use disorder, right? And if a client came to me and they had what I would consider symptoms of alcohol use disorder, I would want to get the medical community involved because we got to solve that problem. The fact that they showed up drunk to duty is a problem, but it's a much greater problem, the fact that somebody's having to drink before they go to work.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And we want to make sure that we're not only helping with the legal issue, but then addressing any underlying issues to help that service member as a whole, in addition to just addressing their legal problems.
Right. And, sometimes, in the alcohol community, right, in the alcoholic community, we call it, hitting rock bottom, right? And usually, being drunk on duty is not going to rise to that level other than it threatens your career. Hopefully if somebody is drinking and they show up to duty and they're caught, they'll be able to nip that in the bud, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have a place in the Army. It means that they need to accept responsibility, fix it, and move on.
That's absolutely true.
Look, if you're facing alcohol-related offenses such as drunk on duty or drunk and disorderly, and you think you might have more than just a legal problem, give us a call. We are the law office of William Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation. We defend you.